All right, get ready to dive into Vagrant Song with us.
Ooh, sounds spooky.
It is a bit. Whether you love board games or just, like the idea of exploring a unique game, this one has a really interesting theme.
Right. Ghosts.
Yep, ghosts.
Wait.
And we've got a whole stack of reviews and descriptions here, so think of this as your express ticket to figuring out what this game is all about.
And maybe even thinking about empathy and stuff along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, what strikes me is that Vagrant Song takes what could be like a dark, heavy topic, ghosts, and makes it, well, kind of playful.
It's the art style, right.
Yeah, like imagine a ghost train designed by the people who made Cuphead, or, those old Betty Boop cartoons.
I'm getting it, yeah.
You're on this train, early 1930s, you and your friends are, well, vagrants stuck there.
Yeah.
And everything is in this rubber hose animation style.
So like stretchy limbs, big eyes, the super expressive faces.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's spooky, but also like whimsical at the same time.
Right. And they don't even call them ghosts, they call them Haints, which just adds to that, like, folksy Southern Gothic vibe.
Yeah, it's like we're going to deal with some serious stuff, but we're going to have fun with it too.
Exactly. But, okay, enough about the looks. Let's get to the actual game. How do you play Vagrant Song?
So before we get into like the specific rules, it's important to get the basic idea.
Okay, lay it on me.
Each round, you and the other players, you're working together. You got to figure out how to use your action coins.
Action coins, huh? What are those?
They're how you do stuff in the game, move around, explore, deal with events, and, eventually face the Haints.
Makes sense.
And each player starts with 3 of these coins every round.
So the strategy comes in how you spend them, right?
Totally. You can move your Vagrant between train cars, search for items, look into weird events, or even try to restore a Haint's humanity.
Hold up. Restore a Haint's humanity. That doesn't sound very Ghostbustery.
Well, that's where Vagrant Song gets really interesting. You're not trying to destroy the Haints. You're trying to help them remember who they were.
Oh, I see. Like reconnect them with their, lost humanity?
Exactly. So even actions that might seem kind of aggressive are actually about, like, restoring balance.
So it's less about fighting and more about, like, ghost therapy.
I guess you could say that, but there's still strategy involved.
Okay, so how do you figure out what the Haint does? Is it just random?
Not entirely. This is where the bindle system comes in.
The bindle? Sounds intriguing.
It's basically a bag, and it's filled with these tokens that represent, like, items, events, and even what the Haint might do.
Oh, so it's kind of like a grab bag of fate.
In a way, yeah. Every time you pull a token out of the bindle, you're not just seeing what you get, you're also changing how the Haint acts.
Wow, that's clever. It's like you're trying to predict the Haint's moves based on what tokens you take out.
Exactly. And it gets even trickier, because if you pull too many of the same type of token, it triggers something called the cycle effect.
And that's bad.
Right. Yeah, it can be. So you got to be strategic about which tokens you remove.
Makes sense. So there's this constant push and pull between trying to control the Haint and avoiding those bad effects.
Exactly.
Wow, this game is already sounding way more complex than I expected.
Oh, and we haven't even talked about rituals yet.
Rituals? What are those all about?
Think of them like mini quests, special objectives you can try to complete during each scenario.
Okay, and what's the point of doing them?
If you complete a ritual, you get rewards that can help you later in the game.
So it's like a little bonus challenge with potential benefits down the line?
Precisely. And then there's the camp phase, which happens between scenarios.
The camp phase? What happens there?
Well, your vagrants get to rest, recover, and you can upgrade their abilities.
Oh, so you're not just battling ghosts, you're also, like, leveling up your characters.
Yep, and you can buy new items or even switch to a different character entirely.
Wow, so there are a lot of choices to make, even when you're not actively facing a Haint.
Absolutely. And there's even a choose-your-own-adventure element mixed in.
What do you mean?
During the camp phase, you get to make choices that affect the story.
Oh, so you can actually shape the narrative as you play.
Right. It's like adding your own personal touch to the game's story.
That's really cool. It sounds like Vagrant Song really gives you a lot of control over how the game unfolds.
Yeah, you have a lot of agency. But let's talk about those Haints for a second. Are they all just, like, generic ghosts?
Well, I was wondering that, too. Do they have personalities?
That's actually one of the coolest things about the game. Each Haint has its own backstory, motivations, even its own look.
So they're not just obstacles, they're actual characters.
Exactly. And you learn more about them as you play.
That makes sense. Okay, give me an example, like, what kind of Haint might we encounter?
Well, there's one called the Whistling Ridge Runner.
Okay, what's their deal?
Well, he's constantly looking for his lost love.
That's kind of sad.
It is, and it influences how he acts in the game. He might move around erratically, searching, or try to interact with things that remind him of his past.
Oh, so understanding his backstory could actually help you predict his moves.
Exactly. And that ties back into that empathy theme we were talking about.
Right. You're not just fighting these Haints, you're trying to understand their pain and help them find peace.
Precisely. But enough about the Haints for now. Let's shift gears and talk about the playable characters, the Vagrants themselves.
Yeah, you mentioned 6 different ones, right?
Yep. Each one has their own personality, special abilities, and starting items.
Ooh, starting items like what?
Well, it depends on the Vagrant. For example, the Curse Bearer is almost immune to a Haint's powers, while the Empress can do a ton of damage but is also really vulnerable herself.
Oh, so there's a trade-off there. Interesting. So each character brings something unique to the team.
Definitely. And the cool thing is, you can switch between them, between scenarios.
Wait, so you can play as a different Vagrant each time?
Yep. So if you want to try a different playstyle, you totally can.
That's awesome. So, like, who are some of the other Vagrants?
Well, you've got the Revivalist, who's all about healing, and the Runaway, who comes with a dog.
A dog. There's a dog in this game.
Yep. And the dog actually helps the Runaway in combat.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, what about the other two?
You've got the Songsmith, who can manipulate how the game flows, and the Wayfarer, who's like a master scavenger.
So, like, he uses junk to power up his abilities.
Yeah, something like that. So there's a real variety of characters to choose from.
All right, so we've got these cool characters, a unique setting, mechanics that are both strategic and kind of emotional. Sounding pretty good so far.
It is. But we've only just scratched the surface of Vagrant Song. Now the real question is, how does it all come together in actual gameplay?
Yeah, and for that, we'll need to delve into what these reviews have to say.
Exactly. And as you'll see, there are some pretty diverse opinions out there about this game.
All right, let's jump into those reviews and find out what makes Vagrant Song tick.
Sounds good to me. All right, so let's dive into some of these reviews, because there are some interesting contrasting opinions about Vagrant Song out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the difficulty level, some reviewers were breezing through it, others were like barely hanging on.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Why do you think that is?
Well, from what I read, it seems like Vagrant Song relies a lot on dice rolls, like for almost everything important you do.
Ah, the dice, the great equalizer.
Right. Totally. You can have this amazing plan all mapped out, then bam, the dice say nope, and everything goes sideways.
It happens. So yeah, with all that randomness, every game can feel totally different.
One game you're the Ghostbusting champion, the next you're like tripping over your own shoelaces.
Exactly. And that unpredictability, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on, what you want from a game.
Right. Like
Yeah.
some people love that element of surprise, keeps things exciting.
Right. They like the challenge of having to adapt on the fly, come up with new strategies.
Yeah. But others might find it frustrating, like all their careful planning goes out the window.
Yeah, you feel like you're at the mercy of fate. And to be fair, you kind of are with all those dice rolls.
So it seems like if you're the type of person who wants to be in total control, maybe Vagrant Song isn't the best fit.
Yeah, but if you're okay with a little chaos, if you enjoy the unexpected, then this game might be perfect.
It's like embracing the wild ride, bumps and all.
Exactly. And that randomness, it even extends to that bindle system we were talking about.
Oh yeah, with those tokens, you never know what you're going to get.
Right, like you're trying to manage the Haints actions, and then boom, you pull some crazy event token and everything changes.
It's like the game is saying, hey, life throws you curveballs, deal with it.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I guess even with the best intentions, stuff happens, plans get disrupted.
That's a good point. It's kind of like a reflection of real life in a way.
Right. Like you can plan all you want, but sometimes things just don't go your way.
Exactly. And Vagrant Song kind of forces you to deal with that uncertainty, to be flexible.
Yeah, it's like a lesson in adaptability,
Yeah.
hidden within a spooky ghost game.
Exactly. But, while some people love that unpredictable aspect, others find it a bit limiting, strategically speaking.
Especially when it comes to character progression, right?
Yeah, some reviewers felt like their characters weren't really growing in a meaningful way.
Even after getting new skills and items?
Yeah, they felt like the skill system, while flexible, lacked depth.
Like you can learn a bunch of new things, but they don't really change how you play the game all that much.
Right. It's like having a toolbox full of different tools, but they all kind of do the same thing.
So you're not really specializing, you're just like adding more of the same.
Exactly. So Vagrant Song might not scratch that itch for players who really love to min-max their characters, optimize everything.
But for players who enjoy a more, I guess, relaxed approach to character building, it might not be a big deal.
Yeah, and let's not forget that the 6 core vagrants, they each have their own distinct playstyle right from the start.
Right, like the runaway with their dog companion, that's already a unique element.
Exactly. It's those little details, the character quirks, that add a lot of flavor to the game.
Totally. And it also seems like Vagrant Song strikes a good balance between like strategic depth and just being plain fun to play.
Yeah, it's accessible to a wide range of players, ages, experience levels, all that.
And it helps that it's affordable too, right?
Yeah, especially compared to some of those other big box games out there. Vagrant Song is pretty reasonably priced.
So you get a lot of game for your money, which is always a plus.
Definitely. But, you know, beyond the mechanics and the components, there's something else that stood out in these reviews, something a little deeper.
Oh yeah, the themes.
Right, like what's the message behind Vagrant Song? What is it trying to say about, being human?
One reviewer even compared it to Bob Dylan's Shelter from the Storm, talking about empathy and finding solace in hard times.
Wow, that's pretty deep. It's interesting, right, how a game can make you think about bigger things like that.
Totally. So do you think the game is intentionally trying to be this profound? Or is it just something that emerges naturally from the gameplay?
That's a good question.
I'm leaning towards the latter. It's like the creators baked that empathy theme into everything. The rules, the art, the story.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not just about winning or losing. It's about understanding these Haints, connecting with them.
And even the combat with that busting and patching up, it's not about violence. It's about helping them heal.
Exactly. And even that westbound mechanic, which some people didn't love, it kind of fits into that theme too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, when a vagrant becomes westbound, they're not really defeated. They're just like transformed. Their humanity is hidden for a bit.
It's like they're lost, but not gone forever. There's still hope.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message. Even in the face of hardship, compassion can make a difference.
Wow, I'm really seeing this game in a whole new light now. It's not just about rolling dice and fighting ghosts. It's about like the power of human connection.
Right. It's about seeing things from another perspective, understanding those who might seem different or scary at first.
And that's what makes Vagrant Song so special. It makes you think, it makes you feel.
Totally agree. It's a game that sticks with you long after you've put it away.
But before we get too carried away with the philosophical stuff, there are still some criticisms we need to address.
Oh, right. Like the rulebook. Some reviewers found it a bit confusing.
Yeah, and the story, while interesting, didn't quite satisfy everyone.
All right, let's dig into those next and see if we can shed some light on those less than perfect aspects of Vagrant Song.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. All right, so we've talked about the good stuff, the unique art style, those clever mechanics, the whole empathy thing.
But let's be real, no game is perfect.
Exactly. Every game has its quirks.
For sure. And with Vagrant Song, one of the things that kept popping up in the reviews was, well, the rulebook.
Yeah, the dreaded rulebook.
Some people found it a bit unclear.
I can see that. Like you're excited to play, you open the box, and then bam, you're hit with this wall of text.
It can be a bit daunting, especially if you're new to these kinds of games.
Right. You just want to get to the Ghostbusting, not spend an hour deciphering rules.
Exactly. And it seems like Vagrant Song's rulebook could use a little more organization, maybe a better index or glossary, something like that.
Yeah, a good index is a lifesaver, especially when you're trying to look up specific things during the game.
Definitely. And from what I've read, that lack of clarity, it kind of extends to the story, too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, a lot of reviewers liked the setting, the whole vagrants on a ghost train thing.
It's a cool premise, for sure.
But some felt like the story itself, like the overall plot, was a bit vague.
Like it hinted at a bigger mystery, but didn't really deliver on it?
Yeah, kinda. One reviewer even asked point blank, "Are we dead?"
Huh. Well, that's a valid question, given the whole ghost theme.
Right. The game doesn't really give a clear answer. It's kind of left up to interpretation.
Oh, so it's like one of those movies with an ambiguous ending leaves you wondering what really happened.
Exactly. And that ambiguity, it might work for some people, but others might find it frustrating.
Yeah, they want those concrete answers. They want that sense of closure.
And that brings us to another point that some reviewers brought up, the length of the campaign.
Oh yeah, 20 scenarios. That's a lot of ghostbusting.
It is, and some people felt like it was just too long, especially considering the potential for repetition we talked about earlier.
Right, like if the gameplay gets repetitive and the character progression isn't super exciting, then 20 scenarios might feel like a slog.
Yeah, some felt like a shorter, more focused campaign might have been better, something that really digs into the story and gives you a satisfying ending.
Okay, makes sense. But then again, some players love those epic, sprawling campaigns.
Totally. Some people want dozens of hours of gameplay, and for them, Vagrant Song delivers.
So it really comes down to personal preference, like what kind of experience you're looking for.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to board games or any kind of entertainment, really.
Right. What might be a flaw to one person could be a feature to someone else.
And despite those criticisms, it's clear that Vagrant Song has a lot of dedicated fans.
Oh, yeah. People who absolutely love the game.
They're drawn to the unique art style, the innovative mechanics, the whole theme of restoring humanity.
Yeah, those are all strong points for sure.
And for those players, the things we've been talking about, the rulebook, the story, the length, it might not even matter that much.
They might actually enjoy the challenge of figuring things out, or the open-endedness of the narrative.
Exactly. It all depends on what you're looking for in a game.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Vagrant Song, what's the final verdict? Would you recommend it?
Well, that's tough to say definitively. It really depends on the individual player.
Right. It's not a game for everyone.
Yeah. But I think it's safe to say that if you're intrigued by the idea of a game that's both mechanically and thematically unique, that pushes you to think strategically and be adaptable, then Vagrant Song is worth checking out.
And if you're okay with maybe a little bit of rulebook digging and a story that doesn't tie everything up in a neat little bow, then you might just fall in love with this game.
It's a game that challenges you, surprises you, and ultimately makes you think about things in a new way.
And sometimes that's all you need from a game.
Absolutely. It's about the experience, the journey, not just the destination.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think we've covered just about everything.
But before we go, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Oh yeah, good takeaway.
In a world that can often feel divided and chaotic, Vagrant Song offers a different perspective.
Right. It reminds us that empathy is powerful, that understanding can bridge gaps, that even in the darkest of places, there's always hope.
And maybe, just maybe, by playing games like this, we can learn to apply those lessons to our own lives.
Exactly. Games can be more than just entertainment. They can be tools for growth, for connection, for understanding.
So to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep playing those games that spark your imagination and challenge your perspective.
And who knows, you might just discover something amazing about yourself along the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Vagrant Song. Until next time, happy gaming.